Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Kristen. This is my booktube, and today's video is going to be probably pretty short. I've been very busy this week, and it's been quite an overwhelming and a bit of a stressful week, if I'm being honest. But nonetheless, we have come to the end of another month, and I wanted to be sure to get an upload out this weekend. And for this week's video, we are going to be talking about the books that I read in August. Now, because I am in the midst of doing basically research on Greek mythology, Greek retellings, that kind of thing, I'm not really going to be talking much about those books. I'll mention the ones that I have read that I am currently reading, but for the bulk of this video, it's going to be more so about the other books outside of that kind of genre, if you will, that I read this month, which is really just one book series, I'm pretty sure. We can do a little cup of the day update. This one is not one that my grandma made me, but this is just one that I got from a website called Foxblood Boutique. It's like a goth boutique out of LA, and their tagline is "For babes that wear black." So I have this little tumbler that says "Babe in Black." So that is what I'm drinking my coffee out of today. Today is Friday, September 1st, so you are getting the full rundown of everything that I've completed or started reading in August. Since this is a bit of a different format to the other wrap-up videos that I've done, I'm going to talk about everything I've read. Whether I finished it or not, I'm just going to talk about everything that I've read in August. So the format of this video is going to be a little different from the other wrap-up videos that I've done in the past. I'm not going to go into like the stats and like genre breakdowns, all of that stuff of the books that I read this month, because it's kind of pointless because I've only basically read 2 different kinds of books, which may not make sense right now. When I get into the meat of this video, it'll make more sense. But yeah, so this is just going to be more of a casual, just kind of chatty video where I'm just going to update you on what I have been reading, because we haven't really had a update like that in a while. I think the last time I did one was at the beginning of this month, and then it's been like travel videos or other kinds of videos. But I think we just need like a general kind of update of what I did this month. So the first half of this month, I was really focused on only reading Greek mythology and Greek retellings. I read the Iliad at the very beginning of this month. Well, I finished the Iliad either at the end of July or the beginning of August. I can't really remember, but I did finish the Iliad a while ago. And then I started reading Troy and also started reading the Odyssey. I haven't finished the Odyssey yet. I'm still like slowly making my way through that. And I have finished Troy, but I listened to it. So now I'm going back through with an ebook copy. And now I'm just kind of going through and like highlighting, making notes of important details and things in Troy so that I can hopefully cobble together some sort of Greek mythology type video sometime in the near future. I'm not going to put any deadlines on myself because I work full time. So it's not like this is the only thing that I do. I would love it if my job was just to read books all day and make YouTube videos, but it's not. So we gotta make money. So that's kind of put a drag on that Greek mythology video that I want to make, but rest assured, I do still want to make it. I am still trying to make progress towards making it. It is just a little bit more slow going than I initially anticipated. I did start the Odyssey. I have not finished it, mostly because going back and essentially physically reading Troy and like taking notes and things, it takes a while, and I don't always have the time to just really sit down and do that kind of work. So that's kind of been holding me back a little bit. Aside from those, I have also started a reread of the ACOTAR book series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. For those that aren't familiar with this fairy fantasy book series, during the month of August, I made it pretty much all the way through the first 3 books. As of today, I still have about like 4-ish hours left of the 3rd book, which is A Court of Wings and Ruin. So I have about 4 hours left of that one. I will definitely finish it today, but I do just want to mention that I'm not technically done with it yet. And also today, if I do have enough time to finish that, I need to start another fantasy book called Fourth Wing, because the book club at my office is having a meeting on that book on Wednesday of next week. So I have a couple days to read that. The audiobook is available to me, so I will be listening to that so that I can get through it a little bit faster. And I specifically haven't started it yet because since the meeting's on Wednesday, for book club meetings specifically, I like to read the book pretty close to the meeting time because I like having discussions about the book when it's pretty fresh in my mind. So that is the only reason that I didn't start it in August and why I decided to do a reread of the Court of Thorns and Roses series instead. So that's essentially why I didn't want to go into all of the stats and things, because for the genres and the ratings and all of that stuff, it's going to be pretty much the same data for all of them. Like, they're all books that I really enjoy. I'm pretty sure if I were to look at the ratings, I rated all the books that I read in August like 4.5 or higher, I'm pretty sure. And that's because most of the books that I read in August are rereads, and I don't typically reread books that I don't really like. So that was the thought process behind not really putting all of those stats in this video. I haven't even really looked at them. I just already know that if I were to, filter my StoryGraph stats for August, it's gonna be, the Venn diagram's gonna be a circle most of the time. It's just not gonna be that interesting of an infographic for me to share. So for those of you that aren't really familiar with the ACOTAR series, the books are essentially about fairies. So it is a fantasy series. The books center around a girl named Feyre, who is a human that lives very close to the border of the fairylands, which are called Prythian. And there are 7 high lords in Prythian that essentially divide up the land into 7 different courts, and they all have different magical powers. And there's different themes in different courts. There are 4 what they call seasonal courts, and then there are 3 solar courts. You know the seasons, there's the autumn court, winter court, spring court, summer court. And then the solar courts are the day court, night court, and the dawn court. And a lot of people like to label these books as like fairy smut, and that there's a lot of like sexual things that happen in them. And that is part of it, but it's not like the whole of these 800-page books are just that. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on in it that is very thrilling, very heart-pumping. There's fighting, good versus evil. There is, deception. There is like romance in it. There's also like full-on war, politics. It's funny at times. There's espionage. Like there is a lot that goes on in these books. And like, for example, my favorite book of the first 3 is the 3rd one. And it's because that book has a lot more interesting themes to me personally. There's espionage in there, there's sabotaging a court from within, there is full-on war that happens, preparation for that war, gearing up for the war, all of these talks with the different courts and forming alliances and things like that. And it's just very interesting to me. So if you've heard that this book is like very heavy in the romance and it's just like fairy smut or whatever, like there is some of that in there, but it's not the entirety of the book series. There is so much more to this book series than just that part. And I feel like when I hear people talk about that book series, that's pretty much what they boil it down to. And I just want to put it out there that it is a lot more than that. So I'm not going to go into detail of what happens in each book, mostly because even from like the first book to the second book, there are some twists. There are a lot of twists that happen, and I don't want to give any of them away. And if you're thinking about reading this series, I honestly would avoid Googling anything about it, looking up any fan art, because it gives away quite a bit when you look up the fan art, and just kind of going in it blind. What I will tell you is that at least the first 3, as far as I'm aware, are loosely based on different fairy tales. There are certain characters that come from different like Celtic folklore and folklore about fairies specifically. And then there are also like overarching themes of different fairy tales. So the first book has a Beauty and the Beast kind of theme, because you have this human girl who is basically whisked away and kind of kept captive in the spring court of Prythian. And then the second book is Hades and Persephone themed. So even though I was trying to take a break from Greek mythology, I still found my way back to some Greek themes anyway. And that's kind of the point that I was making in a previous video, where I was saying, once you're familiar with the different characters and stories in Greek mythology, it really enriches your experience with pretty much everything else in pop culture. Like, you just start to notice those themes a bit more. And ACOTAR is no exception to that. The second book has themes that are related to the myth of the taking of Persephone, when Hades takes Persephone into the underworld. So that's kind of the theme of the second book. And then the third book, I think, is the loosest of all of them. And from my perusing of Reddit online, the consensus seems to be that it's kind of like a Snow White sort of theme. There are like evil queens, there's a poison apple. So there are some literary themes like that that are present throughout these books. And like I said, this is a reread for me, but the last time that I read these books, I only read the first 3. There's currently 5 available, but I only read the first 3 the last time I did a read through. And that was a conscious decision because I'm pretty sure that I had like a book club meeting coming up and I stopped in the series and I never picked it back up again. But the other reason that I stopped reading at the third book was because I got the sense from perusing some sites online like Reddit and Wikipedia and things like that, that the structure of this series is not really like a true series where, you have book 1 that leads into book 2 and into book 3 and that kind of thing, and they're all connected. From what I understand, this series really started as a trilogy, so the first 3 flow together like a normal series would. The 4th one, which I've seen also called like book 3.5 on like Goodreads and stuff, is more of a novella. I'm pretty sure it's still like 250, 300 pages, but for Sarah J. Maas, that is a very short book. All of the other ones in the series are probably 600 plus pages. I think the last one that's currently available is like 800 pages. The 4th one is like a winter novella. I've heard that it has like kind of Christmassy vibes to it. And the 5th book that's available is from the point of view of a different character and kind of tells a different story. I don't know if it takes place in the same timeline as the first 3 books, or if it is like a continuation of the timeline. I don't know exactly how that shakes out just because I haven't read it yet, but I do plan on reading it this time around. So I am planning on finishing the 3rd book today, and then I might start 4th Wing. I might start the next book in the ACOTAR series. I haven't fully decided yet, but I know in September I want to read all 3 of those books. I want to finish the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and I also need to read 4th Wing for my book club. So this has kind of turned into an August wrap up and a September TBR. So going on into September, I do want to finish the ACOTAR series so that I'm completely caught up. There is another book that is supposedly coming out sometime soon, but I want to get caught up on that series. And then I also need to read 4th Wing before next week for my book club meeting. Then I also want to do a reread of the Hunger Games series as well as the prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I don't know if I'll get to that in September. That may be something for October, because also in September, I do want to hopefully finish my reading of the Odyssey and all of Stephen Fry's books, and then get into the other Greek retellings as well. So this has kind of turned into an August wrap-up / September TBR video. So this video is kind of all over the place, but that's kind of where my brain's at right now. I am mentally a little all over the place, but we're still trucking along. We're still making some progress. I am still quite behind on my reading goals, but I'm not stressing about it. I've got plenty of other stressors in my life. I don't need to put that pressure on myself as well. But yeah, we're gonna read what we can read in September and we will see how it goes. As far as what I think about the books that I've read in August, like I said, I rated them all very highly. The Iliad it's such an epic story that has influenced so much of pop culture that you can't really rate it that low. So because it has such a cultural impact, it kind of has to be rated high, I personally enjoyed reading it, so I rated it very highly. Stephen Fry's books are all just great in my opinion, so that's pretty high on my rating list as well. And then the ACOTAR series is, as you would probably know if you're on Book Talk or Bookstagram, it is very, very popular. And there's good reason for that. There are some things about Sarah J. Maas's writing that I'm not a fan of, and some things that happen in the books that I'm not a fan of. But overall, it's a really good series. It's really enthralling. I'm invested the entire time. It has me on the edge of my seat. It elicits physical reactions from me. It's given me goosebumps. It's given me chills. It's brought me to tears in the past. Not this time because I know what happens, so it hasn't made me emotional this time, but it did, and it did the first time that I read it. But yeah, it's popular for good reason. I know it is a lot to read. I completely understand why people wouldn't want to read a series that, you know, starts with a book that's like 500 plus pages, and then the books kind of just get bigger as they go on. I understand having, you know, big book fear and not wanting to commit to something like that. If the series does sound like something you're interested in and you don't have time to read the whole series or just don't really feel like committing that much time to it, I will put a link down below to another person on BookTube. Her name is Cari can read on the platform, and she has done some really good synopsis videos of each of the books in the series. They are long videos. Most of them are like 2 to 3 hours, if not more, but she does a really good job of summarizing what happens in each book and telling you the big plot points while also being entertaining and funny, and I've really enjoyed watching them. So I'll put those down below for you. And if you do want to read the series for yourself, might I recommend reading the book and then watching Cari's video afterwards. That's what I did, and it's really fun because then it's kind of like you get to read the book and then get that feeling of talking about it with someone, because you can watch her video and hear her say like funny quips about things that happen, you know, call characters nicknames and things like that. And in my opinion, it's a really fun way to read the books and not feel like you're isolated and feel like there's someone else that is reading the book with you and you can kind of talk about it with. So that is also an option and something that I recommend doing because I've found it pretty fun. Her videos have literally made me laugh out loud when watching them after I read the books. So I think that they're really fun, and obviously a lot of other people do too because they have a lot of views. So I'll put those down below so for anyone that's interested. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of the end of the video. I know this video was all over the place. I jumped around a lot. I'm a bit mentally scrambled. I've had a pretty stressful week this week, so this is the best I can do right now. I hope that it's okay. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching it and kind of got an idea of where I am reading wise and how I intend to continue. So currently I'm on quite a fantasy kick because I'm gonna finish ACOTAR, and then also Fourth Wing is another fantasy book. And then I also have some dystopian fantasy in there too, with wanting to reread The Hunger Games. And then we also have like classical mythology. So it's just like, it's a lot of like fantasy because in my mind, like mythology and fantasy aren't that like dissimilar because a lot of fantasy comes from the mythology world. So it's all really like in the same vein. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have a few crafty book videos in the works. When I'm listening to audiobooks at home and I'm not doing like household chores and things, I like to do crafty things like painting or crocheting, that kind of thing. And I have been recording my progress of the paintings and other crafty things that I've been doing while I've been listening to some of these books. Hopefully I'll get those crafty projects finished at some point in the near future, and then I can edit all the footage together and actually share it with you. I think it's gonna be a pretty cool visual once I put everything together, but we shall see. That is pretty much all I have to say about the books that I read in August, and I guess what my reading plans are for September. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Let me know. Also subscribe while you're down there. I put out new videos every single Saturday around noon Central Standard Time. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!